And dear students, today I am going to explain about no undo redo recovery based on deferred update. We have seen the two important techniques for the two important recovery techniques. One is the deferred update, another one is immediate update. So under deferred update, one of the technique is no undo and redo recovery that we are going to see today. So what is the deferred update concept means? Postpone the updates to the database on disk until the transaction completes successfully and reaches its commit point. Okay. So deferred update, once the transaction reaches its commit point, then it will be updated in the database. Okay. So here redo type log entries are needed, undo type log entries are not needed. Only the redo, wherever it is required, it is going to be done. No need for any undo operation over here. Can only be used for short transactions and transactions that change only few items. So longer transactions we can't use this technique because it has to wait until the complete transaction should be completed for commit operation. So buffer space an issue with longer transactions because the once the complete operation is over, then only it will be updated into the database. Okay, after the commit. But but in that case, suppose we are going to use longer transactions, the buffer will be a small size, so it is very difficult to handle that entire that long transaction process in the buffer. Okay, so that's the reason. So buffer space is an issue in the for longer transactions. So the transaction cannot change the database on disk until it reaches the commit point. That is a deferred update. So all buffers changed by the transaction must be pinned. Pinned means once the buffer is pinned means it can't flush the data into disk. So until the transaction commits. Once the transaction commits, then the buffer is unpinned and it will flush the data into disk. Okay. So that is the thing. So here we'll take, we are having that 5 transactions. Transaction 1 T1, T2, T3, T4 and T5. So same over here represented. If we'll do here, transaction T, there is a checkpoint over there and system crash. At the time of T1, the checkpoint fixed and the system crashed at the time of T2. Here we have the T1 transaction start, T1 transaction is completed before the checkpoint. So it will be permanently, it will be committed, it will be stored into the database. And the T3 and T4 has started before checkpoint. Okay, and T2 and T5 has started after checkpoint, and the T3 and T2 has committed before the system crash. So the no need, that is redo operation is required over here, but T4 and T5 is committed after the system crash. So these two operations should be cancelled and that complete operation should be done again. Okay, this is the no undo redo recovery based on the deferred update operation. So here another example is we are having that 4 transactions T1, T2, T3 and T4. If we'll take here the T1 transaction, we are going to represent like this, no? So start transaction, comma, at our time it is started, comma T1. Then it is having that operations. What are the operations in the T1 is there means, for example here we are having that write item and commit. Okay, then checkpoint, start T4, then write item, then commit T4. Start transaction T2, write item, start transaction T3, write item. So here we will take T1, the transaction T1 is committed properly. Okay, before checkpoint it is committed properly. See here, the T1 is committed before checkpoint. So this is a proper transaction, everything will be updated in the database, no issue with that. But after T1 the checkpoint is set. See here, after T1 the checkpoint is set, and then T4 then I start the transaction. T4 has started the transaction and then write item, it will perform write item operation, then committed. T4 has committed over there. So before this T4 is committed after the checkpoints, so the read end should be done. Okay, before commit, that is the T4 is read end because the commit point after the last system checkpoint. Okay, but T1 is committed before checkpoint, so no need for any redo or undo operation. But this T4 is committed after the checkpoint, so that read and operation is required. And the T2, it is started after the checkpoint and it is not committed, T2. And T3 also started after checkpoint, that is also not committed, because these two, T2 and T3, are ignored because they did not reach their commit point itself. There is no commit point itself, then system crashed. Okay, so that both the transactions should be cancelled over there, T2 and T3. Okay, so this is about how that deferred method, update method is used for handling error recovery technique. Okay, with no undo and redo recovery based. Okay, so that we should keep in mind here when the transaction is started and whether it is committed before the checkpoint or after checkpoint or after system crash. So based on that thing it will be decided whether the read and operation is required or that completely it will be ignored. Okay, so that's all about this topic.